Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin.
Cambria Holt arrived at her mother's house, carrying a paper bag of sourdough rolls from her bakery. The October rain drummed against the windows of Loretta Whitlow's perfectly appointed dining room. Every Sunday, the same ritual, the same china, the same polished table that reflected the overhead chandelier like a mirror. "You're 5 minutes late," Loretta said, adjusting a fork that was already straight. "Traffic on Burnside." Cambria set the bag on the counter. The smell of roast chicken filled the kitchen, competing with her mother's signature vanilla candle. Dean Whitlow sat in his corner chair, newspaper folded to the sports section. He looked up when Cambria entered. "How's business?" "Good. The new espresso machine is paying for itself." "Smart investment." Dean returned to his paper. Reed emerged from the bathroom, running a hand through his damp hair. "Sorry, long day at the shipyard." Loretta's smile tightened. "We don't start until everyone's seated." Jade swept through the front door without knocking, her dark hair windswept and her cheeks flushed. She wore a flowing dress that hid her figure and carried herself with the casual confidence that had always made heads turn. Sorry. Jade kissed Loretta's cheek. "Got caught up." "With what?" Cambria asked. "Things." Jade's eyes sparkled with mischief. "You know how it is." Loretta directed them to their seats with the precision of a general. Cambria found herself beside Jade, Reed across from them. Dean carved the chicken while Loretta served vegetables with practiced efficiency. "How's the apartment hunting going?" Loretta asked Jade. "Still looking. Rent's crazy these days." Cambria noticed Jade hadn't touched her wine. She'd ordered a Coke instead, which was unusual. Jade loved her Pinot Grigio. The conversation drifted to local news, the weather, Reed's latest project. Normal family dinner talk. Cambria was cutting her chicken when Jade leaned close. "I'm pregnant." Jade's voice was barely above a whisper, but in the pause between conversations it carried. "With Reed's baby." The words hung in the air like smoke. Cambria's knife froze halfway through the meat. Reed's fork clanged against his plate. Loretta's smile became plastic da Cambria's mind catalogued everything in that moment. The way Jade's lips curved slightly upward. The way Reed's face drained of color. The way Loretta's knuckles went white around her wine glass. The way Dean kept chewing, pretending he hadn't heard. "Oh, Jade, congratulations." Cambria's voice came out light, almost amused. To anyone listening, it sounded like she was responding to a joke. "That's quite an announcement." Jade's eyes narrowed. She'd expected shock, tears, drama. Not this controlled response. "It's true," Jade said louder. "Isn't it, Reed?" Reed stared at Jade like she'd grown a second head. "What are you talking about?" "Don't pretend you don't remember." Jade's voice took on a wounded tone. That night in July, when Cambria was at that baking conference in Seattle. Cambria remembered that conference. She'd been gone 3 days, learning about European techniques from a master baker from Lyon. Reed had stayed home to work on their kitchen renovation. "Jade." Reed's voice was steady but strained. "I don't know what game you're playing, but I was never." "Game." Jade's eyes filled with tears. "This is my life we're talking about. Our baby's life." Loretta set down her wine glass. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately." "No." Cambria's voice cut through the tension. "If Jade wants to make accusations at Sunday dinner, we can all hear them." She studied her sister's face. Jade had always been beautiful, but there was something desperate in her expression now. Something cornered. "When are you due?" Cambria asked. "April." Cambria did the math. If Jade was telling the truth, conception would have been in July. The timing was possible, but barely. "Have you seen a doctor?" "Of course I have." Which one? What does it matter? Everything matters. Cambria folded her napkin and placed it beside her plate. Especially when you're making claims about my husband. Reed leaned forward. Cambria, I swear to you. I know. Her voice was calm. Too calm. I believe you. Jade's face flushed. You believe him over your own sister? I believe facts. And right now, all I have is your word. Dean cleared his throat. Maybe we should all take a breath. No, Dad. Jade stood up, her chair scraping against the hardwood. I'm tired of being the family disappointment. I'm tired of perfect Cambria looking down on me. I've never looked down on you. Really? You've never helped me? Never bailed me out? Never acted like you're better than me? Cambria thought about the credit card debt she'd quietly covered last year, the rent money she'd loaned 6 months ago, the countless times she'd smoothed over Jade's messes. I've helped because you're my sister. And now I need help again. With what? Making false accusations. Jade's tears were flowing freely now. They're not false. And when this baby is born, everyone will see. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Thanks for dinner, Mom. The front door slammed, leaving silence in its wake. Loretta began clearing plates with sharp, efficient movements. Well, that was dramatic. Reed looked at Cambria. You know I would never. I know. Cambria's voice was flat, but she doesn't know that I know. What do you mean? Cambria stood and helped gather the dishes. Her hands were steady, but her mind was racing. Jade's accusation wasn't random. It was calculated, strategic, but it was also desperate. I mean, Cambria said, carrying plates to the kitchen, Jade just made a mistake. What kind of mistake? Cambria scraped food into the garbage disposal. She thinks she can lie her way out of whatever trouble she's in. She doesn't realize that some lies have consequences. Reed followed her into the kitchen. What are you going to do? Cambria turned on the faucet and watched the water swirl down the drain. I'm going to let her prove herself. And if she can't? Cambria's reflection stared back at her from the kitchen window. Outside, the October rain continued to fall. Then I'm going to prove her wrong. The drive home was silent except for the rhythm of windshield wipers. Reed kept glancing at Cambria, but she stared straight ahead, her hands relaxed on the steering wheel. When they pulled into their driveway, she sat in the car for a moment after turning off the engine. Talk to me, Reed said. I'm thinking. About what? Timeline. Cambria got out and walked to their front door. Their house was a 1920s craftsman they'd spent 5 years renovating. Every room bore the mark of their careful planning and hard work. She'd built her life with the same precision she used to build her business, methodically, deliberately, with no tolerance for chaos. Inside, she went straight to the kitchen and pulled out her phone calendar. July stared back at her in neat, color-coded blocks. The conference was July 15th through 18th, she said. You worked on the kitchen tiles those days. Reed sat at their small breakfast table. I remember. I finished the backsplash. Did you go anywhere? See anyone? Marla stopped by on the 16th to drop off those business cards you ordered. We had a beer and talked about the renovation. Cambria scrolled through her photos. There was Reed, covered in tile adhesive, grinning at the camera. The timestamp showed 7:23 p.m. on July 16th. What about Jade? When did you last see her before tonight? Reed rubbed his forehead. I don't know. Maybe that barbecue at your parents' in June. Cambria remembered that day. Jade had been moody, drinking too much, and had left early with some excuse about meeting friends. She'd been different lately, more erratic than usual. Cambria moved to their home office and pulled out a filing cabinet. She kept records of everything: business expenses, home improvements, family events. Organization was her weapon against uncertainty. "What are you looking for?" Reed asked. "Patterns." She found what she was looking for in a folder marked Family. Bank statements showing money transfers to Jade. Receipts from dinners where Jade had claimed to be broke. Credit card bills that Cambria had paid to keep Jade's credit from being destroyed. The amounts were smaller than she'd remembered. $50 here, $200 there, but they added up to over $3,000 in the past year. "She's been bleeding money," Cambria said. "Look at this." Reed studied the papers. "You've been supporting her." Quietly. "Mom and Dad don't know how bad it's gotten." Cambria thought about Jade's history. In college, Jade had dated a boy Cambria liked, then dumped him after a week, just to prove she could. 2 years ago, Jade had applied for the same promotion at a marketing firm where Cambria had recommended her, then spread rumors about Cambria's connections to make herself look better. The promotion went to someone else entirely. "She's always competed with me," Cambria said, "but this is different." "How?" "This could destroy us. Our marriage, my business, your job." "If people believe her story," Reed's face darkened, "no one who knows us would believe it. People love scandal, and Jade knows how to sell a story." Cambria pulled up Jade's social media on her phone. The posts were carefully curated, artful photos of food, sunsets, inspirational quotes. But between the lines, Cambria could see the instability. Jade had changed jobs 3 times in the past year. She'd moved twice. There were photos with different men, including several recent ones with someone Cambria didn't recognize. "Who's this?" She showed Reed a photo of Jade with a dark-haired man at a restaurant. "Never seen him." Cambria zoomed in on the man's face. He was handsome in an obvious way, with a kind of smile that looked practiced. The photo was tagged at a restaurant in southeast Portland, dated 6 weeks ago. "Vance Keller," she read from the tag. Reed frowned. "The name sounds familiar." "From where?" "I'm not sure. Maybe work." Cambria screenshotted the photo and saved it. Then she went through more of Jade's recent posts, looking for patterns. The photos with Vance spanned several months. They looked comfortable together, intimate, like a couple. "If she's been seeing this guy, why would she claim the baby is yours?" Reed shook his head. Unless what?" "Unless this Vance guy can't or won't take responsibility." Cambria thought about that. If Vance had reasons to avoid fatherhood, financial, legal, or personal, Jade might be looking for a more stable option. Reed had a good job, a clean record, and a wife who could be pressured into supporting a child. "She's not just lying," Cambria realized. "She's calculating." "What do you mean?" "She chose you specifically, not some random guy. You. Because she knows I'd take care of the problem rather than let scandal touch our lives." The coldness in her own voice surprised her, but Jade had miscalculated. Cambria wouldn't be pressured or manipulated. If Jade wanted to play games with the truth, Cambria would use the truth as a weapon. "What are we going to do?" Reed asked. Cambria closed the laptop and faced her husband. "We're going to prove she's lying. Legally, publicly, and permanently." "How?" "The same way any paternity question gets settled. Science." Reed looked uncertain. "You want to put our family business in court?" Jade already did that the moment she opened her mouth at dinner. "Now we're going to finish it." Cambria stood and smoothed her skirt. "I need to call Marla." "Tonight." "Tonight. This doesn't wait until morning." Marla Trent answered on the second ring. "This better be good. I'm halfway through a Netflix series." Jade claims she's pregnant with Reed's baby. Silence. Then, what the actual hell? "Can you come over? I need to think this through with someone who won't try to smooth things over. Give me 20 minutes. Marla arrived in 15, her red hair pulled back in a messy bun and wearing pajama pants under a raincoat. She'd been Cambria's best friend since middle school, when they'd bonded over being the only two girls in advanced math. Now Marla ran a small print and media shop that handled Cambria's bakery marketing. "Tell me everything," Marla said, settling onto the couch with a cup of coffee. Cambria walked her through the dinner conversation, the timeline, and what she'd found about Vance Keller. "So she's lying," Marla said when Cambria finished. "Obviously. But she's betting you won't call her bluff." "Wrong bet." Marla pulled out her laptop. "Let me see what I can find on this Vance guy." While Marla worked, Cambria made notes on a legal pad. She wrote down everything she could remember about Jade's recent behavior, her financial problems, and her social media posts. "Found him," Marla said. "Vance Keller, age 33, lives in Southeast Portland, has a Facebook page that's mostly public." She turned the laptop so Cambria could see. Vance's profile showed a man who liked to party. Photos from bars, casinos, sporting events. Several posts about needing money for various schemes. One from 3 weeks ago about opportunities for those willing to take risks. "He looks like trouble," Cambria said. "Gets better. I found a news article from 2 years ago. He was arrested for running an illegal poker game in the back of a bar in Gresham." Reed leaned over to read. "Gambling. And look at this." Marla clicked to another article. 6 months ago, he was sued by someone named Torres for unpaid debts. Looks like it was settled out of court. Cambria felt pieces clicking into place. So he owes people money. And maybe he can't afford a baby, which makes Reed a convenient alternative. Marla closed the laptop. "So what's the plan?" Cambria had been thinking about this since they'd left her parents' house. "We do this legally, properly. No games, no drama." Meaning, Reed contests paternity through the courts. We force scientific testing. We document everything. Reed shifted uncomfortably. "That means making our private business public." Jade already did that. Now we control how public it gets. Marla nodded. "Smart. Better to be proactive than reactive." "I need a lawyer," Cambria said. "Someone who specializes in family law." "I know someone. Simone Klein. She handled my cousin's custody case last year. No nonsense, thorough, and she doesn't lose." Cambria wrote down the name. "What else?" "Evidence," Marla said. "Everything we can legally gather to support Reed's side." "Such as?" "Text messages, social media posts, witness statements. Anything that shows Jade was with this Vance guy during the relevant time period." Reed frowned. "How do we get text messages?" "Family group texts," Cambria said. "If she sent messages to all of us, we have copies." Marla pulled out her phone. "I remember some posts from Jade this summer. Let me check what I screenshotted." She scrolled through her photos. "Here, July 20th, Jade posted about having the best night ever with someone special. There's a location tag for a hotel in Southeast." Cambria felt cold satisfaction. Save everything. Screenshot, download, whatever we need. "What about witnesses?" "Your neighbor mentioned seeing unfamiliar cars at Jade's apartment," Reed said to Cambria. "Maybe they saw this Vance guy." "We ask. Politely. Just gathering information." Marla was taking notes now. "What about the timeline? Can we prove where Reed was when this supposedly happened?" "Photos, credit card receipts, work logs," Cambria said. "Reed was documenting the kitchen renovation. I have pictures with timestamps." "And I was at the shipyard most of those days," Reed added. "There are security logs." Cambria felt the familiar calm that came from having a plan. "We build an airtight case before we file anything. Then we let the courts handle the drama." "What if Jade refuses to take a test?" Marla asked. "Then the court can order one after the baby's born. But that makes her look like she's hiding something." Reed rubbed his temples. This is going to tear our family apart. No, Cambria said firmly. Jade already did that. We're just documenting the damage. She looked at her notes. The list was longer than she'd expected. I'll call this Simone Klein tomorrow. We need to understand our legal options. And in the meantime, we don't engage with Jade directly. Everything goes through proper channels from now on. Marla closed her laptop. What if she escalates, posts about this online, or calls your parents? Then she digs her own grave deeper. The more dramatic she gets, the more reasonable we look by comparison. Reed still looked uncertain. You're sure about this approach? Cambria met his eyes. Jade thinks she can manipulate us with family loyalty and social pressure. She doesn't understand that some things are bigger than family dinner, such as the truth, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. After Marla left, Cambria sat in her kitchen with her notebook, planning next steps. She wrote down names, dates, and actions. Everything organized, everything logical. She thought about forgiveness. Some people believed in second chances, in family bonds that transcended betrayal. But Cambria had learned something important from building her business. Trust was earned through consistency, and once broken, it couldn't be repaired with apologies. Jade had chosen to weaponize pregnancy and family relationships. She'd gambled that Cambria would prioritize peace over principle. It was the last mistake Jade would make at Cambria's expense. Simone Klein's office occupied the second floor of a converted warehouse in the Pearl District. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the Willamette River, but Simone kept her blinds partially closed, creating an atmosphere of focused concentration. "Tell me about your sister," Simone said after Cambria and Reed had explained the situation. Cambria chose her words carefully. Jade has a pattern of creating drama when she's in trouble. This time she's gone too far. "You're certain the baby isn't Reed's?" "Absolutely." Simone made notes on a yellow legal pad. She was younger than Cambria had expected, with short gray hair and serious eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. The challenge with paternity cases is that family court judges see a lot of false accusations. They're cautious about ordering tests without good cause. What constitutes good cause? Reed asked. A formal petition from the alleged father requesting determination of paternity, especially if there's evidence suggesting the claim might be false. Cambria leaned forward. What kind of evidence? Timeline inconsistencies. Proof the alleged father was elsewhere during conception. Evidence the mother was involved with other men during the relevant period. We have some of that. Good. But we need to be careful about how we obtain it. Everything has to be legally acquired or it's worthless in court. Simone explained the process. Reed would file a petition seeking determination of paternity. The court would review the evidence and, if justified, order testing. If Jade refused, she'd look suspicious. If she agreed, the truth would come out. What about the other man? This Vance person. If we can establish he's a potential father, the court might order him to submit to testing as well. Cambria felt satisfaction. How long does the process take? Depends on cooperation. If everyone agrees to testing, we could have results in 2 weeks. If there's resistance, it could take months. Time works in our favor, Cambria said. The longer this drags out, the more obvious it becomes that Jade is lying. After the meeting, Cambria and Marla began systematically gathering evidence. They worked carefully, making sure everything they collected was legally obtained. The family group text chain proved valuable. Jade had sent several messages over the summer about her social life. On July 17th, she'd texted, "Amazing dinner at Le Pigeon with someone very special." The timestamp showed 9:30 p.m. Reed was home working on tiles that night, Cambria told Marla. "I have photos." They went through Jade's social media posts, screenshotting everything relevant. The pattern became clear. Jade had been spending time with Vance Keller throughout July and August. There were photos from restaurants, bars, and even what looked like a weekend trip to the coast. "She's practically documented her own alibi," Marla said. The neighbor interviews were more delicate. Cambria approached Mrs. Chen, who lived across from Jade's apartment building, with casual conversation about neighborhood safety. "Have you noticed any unusual activity lately?" Cambria asked. "Strange cars, unfamiliar people?" Mrs. Chen was eager to talk. "Oh yes, that dark blue sedan parked outside almost every weekend this summer. I wondered if someone was moving in. Did you see who was driving it?" "A man. Dark hair, nice looking. He carried himself like he owned the place." Mrs. Chen provided more details than Cambria had hoped for. The car usually arrived Friday evening and left Sunday morning. Sometimes the man would bring groceries or flowers. They looked like a couple. "I assumed your sister had a new boyfriend," Mrs. Chen said. "Good for her, I thought. She seems to have had a hard time lately." Cambria thanked Mrs. Chen and made notes. The timeline was perfect. While Jade claimed to be conceiving Reed's baby, she was spending weekends with Vance Keller. The restaurant receipts were harder to obtain, but Marla had connections in the service industry. A bartender at a southeast Portland bar remembered Jade and Vance because they'd been regulars throughout the summer. They had a standing table on Thursday nights, the bartender told Marla. "Always ordered the same thing. She got the salmon, he got the ribeye. They seemed happy together." "When was the last time you saw them?" "Maybe 3 weeks ago. They seemed to be arguing about something. She looked upset when they left." Cambria added this to her growing file. The evidence painted a clear picture. Jade had been in a relationship with Vance Keller during the time she claimed to be involved with Reed. But the strongest evidence came from an unexpected source. Dean called Cambria's office on Thursday afternoon. "Can you come by the house? Your mother found something." Cambria arrived to find Loretta sitting at her kitchen table with a stack of papers. Her face was pale, and her hands shook slightly as she turned pages. "I was cleaning out the guest room closet," Loretta said. "Jade left some things here last month." The papers were bank statements and credit card bills. Jade's financial situation was worse than Cambria had realized. She owed money to multiple creditors, had maxed out 3 credit cards, and was behind on her car payment. "There's more," Dean said quietly. He handed Cambria a receipt from a medical clinic dated 6 weeks ago. The services listed included pregnancy testing and consultation. "She's known for over a month," Cambria said. "Why didn't she tell us then?" Loretta asked. Cambria studied the receipt. "Because she needed time to plan." The medical clinic was in southeast Portland, near where Vance lived. If Jade had discovered her pregnancy there, she would have had to decide what to do about it. Claiming Reed as the father solved multiple problems. It provided financial security and shifted responsibility away from Vance. "What are you going to do?" Dean asked. "Use this to prove she's lying." Loretta looked stricken. "She's still my daughter, and she's destroying her family with false accusations. This ends now." Cambria photographed the relevant documents, then had Dean and Loretta sign statements confirming where they'd found them. Everything had to be properly documented for court. It would be why Friday. Cambria had assembled a comprehensive file. Timeline evidence showing Reed's whereabouts during conception. Witness statements placing Jade with Vance throughout the summer. Financial records showing Jade's desperate situation. Social media posts documenting her relationship with another man. "It's airtight," Simone confirmed when Cambria delivered the evidence. No reasonable court would deny a paternity test petition with this much supporting documentation. "When do we file?" "Monday. I'll have the paperwork ready by then." Cambria felt the same satisfaction she experienced when a difficult recipe finally came together. All the elements were in place. Now they just needed to execute the plan. Reed signed the paternity petition on Monday morning in Simone's office. His hand was steady, but Cambria could see the tension in his shoulders. "You're sure about this?" he asked one final time. "Completely." The petition was precise and formal. It requested the court to determine paternity of the child Jade claimed to be carrying. It cited the evidence they'd gathered and asked for appropriate testing to establish biological parentage. "Once this is filed, there's no taking it back," Simone warned. "Your family situation will become a matter of public record." "Jade made it public when she lied at dinner," Cambria said. "Now we're just making it official." Simone filed the petition that afternoon. Within hours, Jade would be served with papers requiring her to appear in Multnomah County Family Court. "What happens next?" Reed asked. "We wait for her response. She has 2 weeks to file an answer. And if she doesn't, the court can proceed without her input. But most people don't ignore family court summons." Cambria spent the rest of Monday working at her bakery, kneading dough and decorating cakes with unusual focus. Physical work helped her think. By closing time, she had mentally prepared for every possible response Jade might have. The call came Tuesday morning. "You filed court papers against me." Jade's voice was shrill through the phone. "Reed filed for paternity determination. That's different. How could you do this to family? How could you lie about family?" Jade was crying now. "I'm not lying. This is really happening." "Then you have nothing to worry about. Science will prove you're telling the truth." "I can't believe you drag us into court over this." "You dragged us into this when you made false accusations. Court is just where lies go to die." Jade hung up. 20 minutes later, Loretta called. "Cambria, what have you done?" "What needed to be done?" "Jade is hysterical. She says you're trying to destroy her." "I'm trying to protect my husband from false accusations. Can't you work this out privately?" "We tried that at Sunday dinner. Jade chose drama over truth." Loretta's voice became pleading. "She's pregnant. She's scared." Then she should have thought about consequences before she lied. "What if you're wrong? What if the baby really is Reed's?" Cambria felt cold certainty. "Then Reed will take responsibility." But it's not, and we both know it. The conversation ended badly, with Loretta accusing Cambria of being heartless, and Cambria responding that facts weren't heartless. They were just facts. Wednesday brought a surprise. Vance Keller called Cambria's bakery. "I heard about the court thing," he said without introduction. "Who is this?" "Vance, Jade's boyfriend." Cambria stepped into her office and closed the door. "What do you want?" "To talk. This is getting out of hand." "Where do you want to meet?" "There's a coffee shop on Division. Blend Coffee Bar. Can you be there in an hour?" Cambria almost said yes, then stopped herself. "I don't think that's appropriate. Anything you want to say should go through the court." "Come on. We're all adults here. Adults don't lie about paternity." Vance's tone changed. "Look, maybe we can work something out. Without involving lawyers and judges." "What kind of arrangement?" "Maybe Reed doesn't have to fight this so hard. Maybe everyone could benefit." Cambria understood. Vance was trying to negotiate. He wanted Reed to accept responsibility so Vance could avoid it. "There's nothing to work out," she said. "The truth is the truth." "What if the truth is complicated?" "It's not." She hung up and immediately called Simone to report the conversation. "He's getting nervous," Simone said. "Good. Nervous people make mistakes." "Should I have met with him?" "Absolutely not. Any communication could be seen as negotiation. We want this resolved by science, not deal-making." Thursday brought the preliminary hearing date. Judge Martinez would review the petition and decide whether to order testing. Cambria dressed carefully that morning. Conservative suit, minimal jewelry, professional demeanor. She wanted to look like someone who respected the court and told the truth The courthouse was busy with various family law matters. Cambria watched other families dealing with custody disputes, divorce proceedings, and support hearings. Their situation felt both ordinary and surreal. Jade arrived with a lawyer Cambria didn't recognize. A young man in an expensive suit who looked like he specialized in damage control rather than family law. "Your Honor," Jade's lawyer began, "this petition is unnecessary harassment of a pregnant woman. Mr. Holt is simply trying to avoid responsibility for his actions." Judge Martinez was a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and no patience for drama. She reviewed the evidence Simone had submitted. "Mr. Holt, why are you contesting paternity?" Reed stood. "Because I never had relations with Jade Whitlow, Your Honor. The accusations are false." "Ms. Whitlow, do you maintain that Mr. Holt is the father?" Jade dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "Yes, Your Honor. We had an affair last July. Do you have evidence of this relationship?" Jade's lawyer shuffled papers. "My client's testimony is evidence, Your Honor." Judge Martinez looked unimpressed. "Ms. Klein, what evidence supports your client's position?" Simone presented their documentation, methodically. Timeline evidence, witness statements, social media posts showing Jade's relationship with Vance Keller, financial records suggesting motive for false accusations. "This is quite comprehensive," Judge Martinez said. "Ms. Whitlow's counsel, do you have response to this evidence?" Jade's lawyer looked uncomfortable. "Your Honor, social media posts don't prove or disprove paternity." "No, but they suggest alternative explanations for pregnancy. And Mr. Holt's documentation of his whereabouts during the alleged conception period is compelling." Judge Martinez made her decision quickly. "I'm ordering paternity testing. Given the evidence presented, I find Mr. Holt's request reasonable and necessary." Jade started crying harder. Her lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. "Your Honor," he said, "my client is willing to undergo testing, but she requests the least invasive option available." "Ms. Klein, what are the options?" Simone was prepared. Non-invasive prenatal paternity testing uses maternal blood to analyze fetal DNA. It's safe for both mother and child and provides reliable results. How reliable? Over 99% accuracy when performed by an accredited laboratory. Judge Martinez nodded. The court orders NIPP testing through Cascadia Genetics with strict chain of custody procedures. Both alleged fathers will provide reference samples. Both. Jade's lawyer looked confused. Mr. Vance Keller will also be tested, given the evidence suggesting he's an alternative potential father. Cambria felt victory. The judge had not only ordered testing, but had included Vance. There would be no ambiguity in the results. When will testing occur? Within 2 weeks. Results will be provided directly to the court and all parties simultaneously. The hearing ended with scheduling details and procedural requirements. As they left the courthouse, Cambria saw Jade arguing with her lawyer in the hallway. "How do you feel?" Reed asked. "Vindicated," Cambria said, "and certain will be fully vindicated soon." Jade's social media posts began Thursday evening. The first was a photo of her hands holding a pregnancy test with text that read, "Standing up for my unborn child against people who want to deny the truth. #MothersKnow, #TruthMatters," Marla called within an hour. "Have you seen her Facebook?" "I don't follow her anymore." "You need to see this." Cambria logged into Facebook and found 3 posts from Jade. Each was more dramatic than the last. The pregnancy test photo had dozens of sympathetic comments. The second post was a longer text block about family members who choose courts over love. The third was a photo of Jade looking sad and vulnerable, with a caption about fighting for my baby's future. "She's building a narrative," Cambria told Reed, "playing the victim." "Should we respond?" "Absolutely not. Social media is where facts go to die. We let the lab results speak for themselves. But Jade's campaign was effective. By Friday morning, mutual friends were reaching out to Cambria with questions. Her bakery's Facebook page had received several negative comments from people claiming she was heartless and family-destroying. Marla offered to manage the online response, but Cambria declined. We don't engage. People who know us will see through this. People who don't know us don't matter. The real escalation came Friday afternoon. Loretta called Cambria at work. I need you to drop this court case. That's not happening. Jade is getting threats online. People are calling her terrible names. That's not my responsibility. She's your sister. She's also a liar who's trying to destroy my marriage. Loretta's voice became sharp. I raised you better than this. You raised me to tell the truth and take responsibility for my actions. That's exactly what I'm doing. By humiliating your family in public. By refusing to be manipulated by false accusations. That evening, Jade showed up at Cambria's bakery 20 minutes before closing. She looked genuinely distressed, with dark circles under her eyes and her hair pulled back messily. We need to talk, Jade said. We have nothing to discuss outside of court. Please, just 5 minutes. Against her better judgment, Cambria let Jade inside and locked the door behind her. I'm scared, Jade said immediately. People are saying horrible things about me online. Maybe you should have thought about that before making false accusations. They're not false. Cambria studied her sister's face. Prove it. The DNA test will prove it. Will it? Because I think you're going to be very surprised by those results. Jade's composure cracked. Why are you doing this to me? I'm not doing anything to you. I'm protecting my husband from lies. What if I'm telling the truth? You're not. How can you be so sure? Cambria felt cold certainty. Because I know Reed, and I know you. Jade started crying again. I'm pregnant and alone and terrified. Doesn't that mean anything to you? It means you should have been more careful about who you slept with. That's cruel. It's honest. Jade wiped her eyes. What if I told you I made a mistake? What if I said I was confused about the father? Are you? Maybe. Then you can tell the court that when the test results come back. Jade's tears stopped abruptly. You really won't help me? Not if helping you means lying for you. Fine. Jade's voice turned cold. But don't expect me to forgive you for this. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for truth. After Jade left, Cambria called Simone to report the conversation. She's cracking, Simone said. The almost confession about being confused is significant. Will it help in court? Possibly. It suggests she knows her story won't hold up to testing. What happens if she tries to withdraw her claim before testing? Too late for that. The court has ordered testing, and Mr. Keller is now involved. The process moves forward regardless of what Jade wants. Cambria felt satisfaction. Jade had maneuvered herself into a corner with no escape routes. The truth would come out whether she cooperated or not. That weekend, Cambria worked in her bakery and ignored the ongoing social media drama. She focused on what she could control: her business, her marriage, and her preparation for whatever came next. Sunday dinner at Loretta's was canceled. Until this is resolved, Loretta said when she called to inform Cambria. That's fine. We'll have our own dinner at home. Cambria, please reconsider. For the sake of family. I am considering family. I'm protecting it from people who would tear it apart with lies. Dr. Lena Abrahams met them at Cascadia Women's Health on Tuesday morning. The clinic occupied a modern building in northwest Portland, with warm wood tones and soft lighting designed to put patients at ease. I understand you're here about court-ordered paternity testing, Dr. Abrahams said as she led them to a consultation room. That's correct, Simone replied. We need to understand the NIPP procedure and its legal admissibility. Dr. Abrahams was younger than Cambria had expected, with graying blonde hair and the calm demeanor of someone who'd handled sensitive situations many times. Non-invasive prenatal paternity testing is relatively new, but scientifically reliable, she began. We analyze cell-free fetal DNA circulating in the mother's bloodstream. How accurate is it? Simone asked. Over 99% when performed correctly. The key is having accredited laboratory processing and proper chain of custody. Dr. Abrahams explained the procedure in detail. Jade would need to provide blood samples at specific intervals. Reed and Vance would provide cheek swabs. The lab would compare genetic markers to determine paternity. What are the risks to the pregnancy? Reed asked. None. That's why it's called non-invasive. We're only drawing maternal blood, which is routine throughout pregnancy. How long for results? 7 to 10 business days from sample collection. Simone took notes on a yellow pad. Will these results be admissible in family court? Absolutely. Cascadia Genetics is accredited and follows all legal protocols. Their reports are accepted in courts throughout Oregon. What if the mother refuses to participate? The court can order compliance. Refusal could result in contempt charges. Cambria listened carefully to every detail. The process sounded straightforward and definitive. No room for interpretation or manipulation. When can we schedule the testing? Simone asked. Ms. Whitlow will need to consent first. The court order requires her cooperation, but we can't force someone to provide medical samples. And if she doesn't consent, then we wait until after birth for standard paternity testing. But that creates more complications. After the consultation, they met with the lab coordinator to understand chain of custody procedures. Every sample would be tracked, documented, and verified. The results would be tamper-proof and legally defensible. This is as solid as it gets, Simone said as they left the clinic. No one can question these results. When will Jade be contacted? Today. The court order requires her to schedule the appointment within 48 hours. And Vance, he's been served with a subpoena. He has to provide a sample whether he wants to or not. Cambria felt the pieces falling into place. Soon, all the speculation and accusations would be replaced by scientific certainty. Wednesday afternoon, Jade called. I scheduled the test, she said without preamble. Good. I want you to know this isn't going to change anything between us. The results will change everything. What if you're wrong? What if the baby is Reed's? Then Reed will take responsibility, but it won't be. You sound very confident for someone who wasn't in the room. I'm confident because I know my husband. Jade was quiet for a moment. What if I told you I was sorry? What if I said I made a mistake? Are you? I'm asking hypothetically. Hypothetically, apologies don't undo lies. Actions have consequences. Even for family, especially for family. Thursday morning brought news from Simone. Vance had tried to avoid the subpoena by claiming he'd moved out of state. A private investigator had located him at a casino in Gresham. He's been served, Simone reported. He has to provide a sample by Friday or face contempt charges. Is he cooperating? His lawyer says yes, but reluctantly. He knows what the results will show. Probably, but he's trapped now. The court won't let him avoid responsibility. Friday afternoon, all 3 samples were collected at Cascadia Genetics. Cambria and Reed watched through a window as the lab technician processed the specimens with meticulous care. How do you feel? Reed asked. Ready for this to be over. And after, when the results prove you're right. Cambria thought about that. Then we decide what kind of relationship we want with people who tried to destroy us. You don't think you'll forgive Jade? Forgiveness requires genuine remorse and change behavior. I don't see either happening. The lab technician sealed the samples in tamper-evident containers and logged them into the system. Somewhere in those vials was the truth that would end Jade's lies and Vance's denials. Results will be available next Friday, the technician confirmed. And they'll go directly to the court. And to all parties simultaneously. No one gets advance notice. Cambria left the clinic feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The waiting was almost over. Scene 8. Vance. The week link news of the subpoena spread quickly. Marla heard about it first through her network of service industry contacts. Apparently Vance has been asking around about how much child support costs. Marla reported over coffee at Cambria's bakery. Panic setting in. Sounds like it. My friend Josh bartends at that place where Vance plays poker. Says he's been talking about needing to make some fast money. Cambria wasn't surprised. Vance had been living paycheck to paycheck before this situation. The prospect of 18 years of child support payments would be terrifying for someone in his position. Any mention of Jade? Josh says they've been arguing. Loud enough that other customers noticed. About what? Money. Responsibility. The usual stuff that breaks up couples when reality hits. That evening, Simone called with an update. Vance's lawyer contacted me about a possible settlement. What kind of settlement? He wants to know if Reed would be willing to accept financial responsibility in exchange for avoiding publicity. Cambria felt disgust. He wants Reed to pay for his baby. That's what it sounds like. What did you tell him? That we're not interested in settlements. We want scientific determination of paternity. Good. But his desperation is useful. Desperate people make bad decisions. Cambria agreed. Vance's attempts to avoid responsibility only strengthened their case. A truly innocent man wouldn't need to negotiate his way out of a paternity test. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Cambria was opening her bakery when she noticed a man watching from across the street. When she looked directly at him, he crossed over and approached the shop. Are you Cambria Holt? Who's asking? I'm Vance Keller. Cambria studied him through the glass door. He was handsome in person, but there was something desperate in his eyes. She cracked the door slightly. What do you want? To talk. We have nothing to discuss. Please, just 5 minutes. Against her judgment, Cambria led him inside. She kept the door unlocked and stayed near the counter. This has gotten out of hand, Vance said immediately. Has it? Look, maybe Jade got confused about timing. Maybe she made an honest mistake. Are you saying you're the father? Vance looked uncomfortable. I'm saying relationships are complicated. Not this complicated. What if there was a way to handle this without courts and tests and all this drama? Such as, maybe Reed doesn't contest this so hard. Maybe everyone shares responsibility. Cambria understood. Vance wanted Reed to help pay for his child. That's not happening. Why not? Reed can afford it better than I can. Because the baby isn't Reed's. But what if it is? It's not. Vance's desperation became more obvious. I owe some people money. Serious people. I can't take on more debt right now. That's not Reed's problem. Look, I'll level with you. Jade and I were together during that time. But maybe she was with Reed too. Maybe we don't know for sure who the father is. The DNA test will tell us for sure. What if the test is wrong? It won't be. Vance tried a different approach. What would it take for Reed to just accept this? Money? I could work something out. Nothing. Because Reed isn't the father. How can you be so sure? Because, unlike you, my husband doesn't lie to me. Vance's face hardened. You think you're better than us? I think I'm smarter than you. Maybe I should tell people about your husband's gambling problem. Cambria felt cold fury. Reed doesn't gamble. Maybe I should tell them about his drinking. Reed barely drinks. Maybe I should tell them whatever story gets them to believe me instead of you. Are you threatening me? I'm explaining reality. This doesn't have to be adversarial. Cambria moved to the phone. Get out of my shop. Think about it. There are ways this could work for everyone. Get out before I call the police. Vance left, but not before giving her a look that was meant to be intimidating. Cambria immediately called Simone to report the conversation. He's making threats now. Veiled ones, about making up stories to damage Reed's reputation. That's actually good for us. It shows consciousness of guilt and willingness to fabricate evidence. Should I be worried? No. Document everything, but don't let him intimidate you. He's a small-time con man who's backed into a corner. What about his debts to serious people? Probably gambling debts. Portland has an underground poker scene, and from what I've learned, Vance is a regular player who's not very good at it. That evening, Reed came home from work looking tired. Rough day. Cambria asked. Someone called my supervisor asking questions about my character. Cambria felt anger. What kind of questions? Whether I'd ever missed work unexpectedly. Whether I'd been drinking on the job. Whether I'd been acting strangely lately. Vance. Probably. My supervisor shut it down quickly, but it's unsettling. He came to the bakery today. Made threats about spreading lies. Reed's face darkened. What did you tell him? To get out. Then I called Simone. This is escalating. Because he's desperate. The test results come back Friday, and he knows what they'll show. What if he tries something else? Like what? I don't know. But cornered animals do unpredictable things. Cambria thought about that. Vance had already shown he was willing to lie and manipulate. If the DNA results confirmed what they already knew, he might become more dangerous. We'll be careful, she said, but we won't be intimidated. And after Friday, Vance becomes someone else's problem. The Child Support Enforcement Office doesn't negotiate with deadbeat fathers. Sunday brought another surprise. Dean called asking Cambria to meet him for coffee away from the house. Your mother doesn't know I'm talking to you, he said when they met at a diner in southeast Portland. About what? Jade came by yesterday. She's falling apart. Good. Dean looked surprised by her response. She's your sister. She's also someone who tried to destroy my marriage with lies. She says she made a mistake. What kind of mistake? She won't say exactly, but she's scared about Friday. She should be. Dean stirred his coffee slowly. I've been thinking about this situation. And Jade's always been impulsive, but she's never been malicious. This is malicious. Or desperate. Cambria studied her father's face. Are you asking me to drop the case? I'm asking you to consider what happens after Friday. What about it? When the truth comes out, there'll be consequences. For Jade, for that Vance fellow, for our family, there should be consequences. Even if they destroy Jade. Jade destroyed herself when she chose to lie. Dean nodded slowly. You've always been the strong one. Sometimes I forget how strong. Strong enough to do what's right instead of what's easy. And if doing what's right tears our family apart, then it wasn't much of a family to begin with. Wednesday morning felt different. Cambria woke before her alarm, her mind immediately sharp and focused. In 3 days, the DNA results would confirm what she already knew. The waiting was almost over. Her bakery felt like a sanctuary. The familiar rhythms of mixing, kneading, and baking provided structure, while her mind prepared for Friday's revelation. She worked on a wedding cake order, each delicate sugar flower requiring complete attention. "You seem calm," Marla observed, watching Cambria pipe intricate details onto the cake layers. "I am calm. Most people would be nervous before getting DNA results. Most people don't already know what those results will show. And after, what's your plan for the aftermath?" Cambria paused in her piping. "Make sure everyone knows the truth. Make sure there are consequences for lying. Make sure this never happens again." That sounds like war. Jade declared war when she made false accusations. I'm just finishing what she started. Reed stopped by during lunch, bringing sandwiches from the deli next door. He seemed tense, distracted. "Everything okay?" Cambria asked. "Just ready for this to be over." "It will be. Friday afternoon, all the questions get answered." "And then what?" "Jade's still your sister. Your parents are still your parents. And they'll all have to decide whether they want relationships with people who tell the truth or people who lie." Reed sat down across from her. "You really won't forgive her?" "Forgiveness requires acknowledgement and change. I don't see either happening." "What if she apologizes?" "For what? Getting caught lying or actually lying in the first place?" Reed considered this. "You think there's a difference?" "I know there's a difference. And if your parents choose Jade's side," Cambria felt cold certainty, "then they'll choose a liar over the truth. That will tell me everything I need to know about their character." "You're prepared to lose your whole family over this." "I'm prepared to find out who my real family is." That afternoon, Simone called with final preparations for Friday's result delivery. The lab will email results simultaneously to all parties at 2 p.m. Friday. The court will receive certified copies. Any word from Jade's lawyer? Radio silence. Either they're very confident or very worried. What about Vance? His lawyer filed a motion requesting sealed results, claiming privacy concerns. Will the judge grant it? Unlikely. This is a public paternity case. Results are part of the record. Good. I want everyone to see the truth. Are you prepared for media attention? This case has generated some online buzz. Cambria hadn't considered that. What kind of buzz? Social media posts about family drama and false accusations. Someone started a hashtag. What hashtag? Hashtag cold proof. People are debating whether you're justified or heartless. Cambria felt a moment of uncertainty. She'd focused so completely on proving the truth that she hadn't considered how her methods might be perceived. "Does that concern you?" Simone asked. "No. People who judge based on incomplete information aren't people whose opinions matter. And if the media wants statements after the results, I'll refer them to the DNA report. Facts speak for themselves." Thursday evening, Cambria and Reed had dinner at their kitchen table. The conversation was subdued, both of them lost in thought about what Friday would bring. "I keep thinking about last Sunday," Reed said finally. "What about it?" "How normal everything seemed. Family dinner, casual conversation. Then Jade whispered those words, and everything changed." "Everything was already changed. We just didn't know it yet." "Do you think she planned it? The timing, the location, the audience?" Cambria had wondered about that too. Probably. Maximum drama with maximum witnesses. She didn't expect you to react so calmly. She expected me to fall apart, to beg her to keep quiet, to offer her money to make the problem disappear. Instead, you declared war. I chose truth over convenience. Reed reached across the table and took her hand. "I want you to know I'm grateful. For believing me. For fighting for us. You're my husband. Of course, I believe you. Not everyone would have handled this the way you did. Not everyone built their life on principles that can't be compromised. They went to bed early, but Cambria lay awake staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow would bring vindication, but also consequences she couldn't fully predict. Relationships would be permanently altered. Trust would be irreparably broken. Her family might never recover, but lies were cancer. They metastasized when left untreated, spreading through relationships and destroying everything they touched. Surgery was painful, but it saved the healthy tissue. Friday morning, Cambria opened her bakery as usual. She'd considered staying home to wait for the results, but routine felt more important than anxiety. Her hand stayed steady as she prepared the day's orders. At 1:45 p.m., she locked the front door and went to her office. Reed arrived at 1:50, followed by Marla at 1:55. They sat around Cambria's desk, watching the clock and waiting for the email that would change everything. At exactly 2 p.m., Cambria's phone chimed. Cambria stared at her phone screen for 10 seconds before opening the email. Reed and Marla waited in complete silence. DNA paternity test results case, #2024, FM. 8847" appeared in bold letters at the top of the official Cascadia genetics report. She read the summary aloud. Based on analysis of 21 genetic markers, Reed Michael Holt is excluded as the biological father of the tested fetus. Probability of paternity, 0%. Vance Lawrence Keller cannot be excluded as the biological father. Probability of paternity, 99.997%. Reed exhaled slowly. Marla pumped her fist in the air. Cambria felt cold satisfaction spread through her chest. "It's over," Reed said. "No," Cambria corrected. "Now it begins." She forwarded the report to Simone, then screenshotted the summary for her own records. The scientific language was absolute, leaving no room for interpretation or denial. "What's next?" Marla asked. "We make sure everyone sees this, starting with my parents." Cambria composed a group text to Dean, Loretta, and 2 family friends who'd heard Jade's original accusations. The message was simple. DNA results attached. Reed excluded as father. Vance confirmed as biological father. Science doesn't lie. The responses came quickly. "Dean, thank God." "Loretta, we need to talk." The family friends, various expressions of relief and support for Reed, NO response from Jade, AT 230. Simone called. "Congratulations. The results are definitive. What happens now legally?" Child Support Enforcement will contact Vance automatically. His name goes into the system as the established father. And Jade, she'll face questions about filing false claims. The court doesn't like being manipulated. Can she be charged with anything? Possibly perjury if the prosecutor thinks it's worth pursuing. But more likely she'll just face civil consequences, such as, you could file a defamation suit for damages to Reed's reputation. Cambria had already considered that option. How strong would our case be? Very strong. False paternity accusations that caused emotional distress and potential professional harm? Most juries would side with you. I'll think about it. By 3 p.m., word was spreading through their social circles. Cambria's bakery phone rang constantly with calls from friends and customers offering support. She let most go to voicemail, but answered when she saw her neighbor Mrs. Chen's number. "I heard the good news," Mrs. Chen said. "I'm so sorry your family went through this ordeal. Thank you for your witness statement. It helped establish the timeline. That man was definitely living there part-time this summer. I hope he takes responsibility now. The law will make sure he does." At 4 p.m., Jade finally called. "Are you happy now?" Her voice was raw from crying. "I'm satisfied that the truth came out. You destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life when you chose to lie. I was scared. I didn't know what else to do. You could have told the truth from the beginning. Vance said he'd leave me if I told anyone he was the father. So you decided to destroy my marriage instead. Jade was quiet for a long moment. I thought Reed would just go along with it. For family peace. You thought I'd pressure him to lie for you. You've always fixed my problems before. By helping you, not by letting you hurt innocent people. Reed's not hurt. His name is cleared. His reputation was damaged. His job was affected. He spent weeks under suspicion. I'm sorry. Are you? Or are you just sorry you got caught? Does it matter? Yes, it matters whether you understand what you did wrong. Jade started crying again. Vance is gone. He left town as soon as he got the results. That's not my problem. I'm pregnant and alone. You're pregnant because of choices you made. You're alone because you drove people away with lies. What am I supposed to do now? Face the consequences of your actions. You really won't help me. Not if helping you means enabling more lies. Jade hung up. Cambria felt no satisfaction from the conversation, but no regret either. Jade had finally admitted to lying, but only after being caught. That wasn't remorse, it was damage control. At 5 p.m., Loretta called demanding a family meeting. We need to discuss how to handle the situation, Loretta said. The situation is handled. Science settled it. I mean the family situation. Jade is devastated. Jade should have thought about that before making false accusations. She made a mistake. She made a calculated lie designed to manipulate us. Can you come over tonight? Your father wants to talk to everyone. Everyone. You, Reed, and Jade. I have nothing to say to Jade. Please, Cambria, for the sake of family unity. Cambria considered it. A confrontation might be satisfying, but it would also give Jade another opportunity to manipulate the situation. Fine, but this isn't a negotiation. It's an explanation of consequences. The Whitlow family meeting convened at 7 p.m. in Loretta's formal living room. Cambria and Reed sat on one side of the coffee table. Jade huddled on the opposite couch, flanked by Loretta and Dean. The DNA report lay on the table between them like evidence at a trial. First, Dean said heavily, I want to acknowledge that Reed has been completely vindicated. The accusations against him were false. Jade stared at the floor. Her face was blotchy from crying, and she wore the same clothes from yesterday. Second, Dean continued, we need to decide how to move forward as a family. That depends on whether everyone can accept the truth, Cambria said. Loretta shifted uncomfortably. Jade has admitted she made an error in judgment. An error? Cambria's voice was sharp. She deliberately accused my husband of adultery and paternity. That's not an error, it's calculated malice. She was scared and confused. Loretta protested. She was manipulative and selfish. Jade finally looked up. I said I was sorry. Sorry for what exactly? Lying or getting caught lying? Both. That's not enough. Dean leaned forward. What would be enough? Cambria had thought about this carefully. Public acknowledgement that she lied, restitution for the legal expenses we incurred, and permanent distance from our lives. You want to cut her out of the family? Loretta asked in horror. I want to protect my family from people who would destroy us with lies. She's my daughter. And Reed is my husband. You can choose which relationship matters more to you. The room fell silent. Outside, traffic hummed past on the residential street, normal life continuing while their family fractured. There has to be a middle ground, Dean said finally. Not for this, Cambria replied. Some betrayals can't be forgiven or forgotten. Jade spoke up suddenly. What if I made a public statement, admitting I was wrong? On social media. Wherever you want. Cambria considered it. What would you say? That I made false accusations. That Reed is innocent. That I'm sorry for lying. And what about the legal expenses? Reed lost work time dealing with this. We paid for lawyers, testing, court fees. I don't have money for that. Then you'll have to find it. Loretta intervened. Cambria, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. Actions have consequences. She's pregnant. She can't work full-time right now. She should have thought about that before creating this mess. Reed spoke for the first time. What about Vance? What's his situation? Jade wiped her eyes. He disappeared, packed up and left without telling me where he was going. The child support office will find him, Cambria said. You can't just run from legal obligations. What if they don't? Not our problem. Dean stood up and walked to the window. I never thought I'd see this family fall apart. We're not falling apart, Cambria said. We're dividing along the lines of truth and lies. That's not fair. Fair would have been Jade telling the truth from the beginning. Loretta tried a different approach. What about the baby? Your future niece or nephew? What about it? Won't you want a relationship with your sister's child? Cambria felt a flicker of emotion, then pushed it aside. That child will be better off without exposure to Jade's chaos. You can't mean that. I absolutely mean it. The conversation continued for another hour, with Loretta and Dean trying various angles to broker reconciliation. Cambria remained unmoved. Trust, once shattered, couldn't be rebuilt with apologies and good intentions. Finally, Jade stood up. I'll make the public statement, but don't expect anything else from me. I don't expect anything from you. That's the point. Jade left through the front door, and Cambria heard her car start in the driveway. Are you satisfied? Loretta asked bitterly. I'm satisfied that the truth came out and will have consequences. And if Jade has nowhere else to turn, she can turn to the truth. It's always available. Driving home, Reed was quiet until they reached their neighborhood. Do you think you were too hard on her? No. She seemed genuinely sorry. She seemed sorry she got caught. There's a difference. What if she really changes? What if this is the wake-up call she needed? Cambria pulled into their driveway and turned off the engine. Then she can demonstrate that change to someone else. She used up her chances with us. No forgiveness, ever. Forgiveness is for people who deserve it. Jade would have to become a completely different person to deserve it. And if she does, then maybe in 5 or 10 years we can revisit the question, but not before she's proven sustained change. That night, Jade posted a statement on Facebook. I need to publicly apologize for making false accusations about paternity. Reed Holt is not the father of my child. I was wrong to claim otherwise. DNA testing has confirmed the actual father is Vance Keller. I am sorry for the pain and confusion I caused. The post received dozens of comments, ranging from supportive to critical. Several people who had initially defended Jade now expressed anger at being misled. Cambria screenshotted the post, but didn't respond to it. The statement was adequate for legal purposes, though it still framed the lies as being wrong rather than deliberate deception. Monday morning brought a call from Officer Ramon Cruz at the Child Support Enforcement Office. We've initiated proceedings against Vance Keller based on the paternity determination, he said. Are you involved with this case? My husband was falsely accused. We had to prove he wasn't the father. Understood. Mr. Keller has a history with our office. Several prior enforcement actions for other obligations. What does that mean? He's skilled at avoiding responsibility, but we have tools to locate and compel payment from reluctant fathers, such as wage garnishment, asset seizure, license suspension. If he's working anywhere legally, we'll find him. And if he's not working legally, Then we'll keep looking. Child support obligations don't disappear. That afternoon, Simone called with an update on the defamation lawsuit option. I've drafted a preliminary complaint, she said. The damages would include Reed's lost work time, legal expenses, emotional distress, and reputational harm. How much are we talking about? Based on your documented expenses and Reed's hourly wage, probably around $15,000, plus punitive damages if a jury wants to send a message. What are the chances of actually collecting? From Jade? Low. She has no assets, but the judgment would follow her for years. Cambria thought about it. The money wasn't the point. Jade couldn't pay significant damages anyway, but a legal judgment would create permanent consequences for her lies. File it, she decided. Are you sure? This will make reconciliation with your sister impossible. Reconciliation was already impossible. This just makes the consequences official. Tuesday brought news that Vance had been located in Nevada, working under a different name at a casino in Reno. Child Support Enforcement was coordinating with Nevada authorities to establish garnishment procedures. He'll fight it, Officer Cruz warned. Men like this always do. Will that work? Not usually. DNA evidence is hard to argue with. Wednesday evening, Loretta called with a request that surprised Cambria. I want to cut off financial support to Jade, Loretta said without preamble. Why? Because you were right. She manipulated all of us. What changed your mind? I found more evidence. Bank records showing she's been lying about her expenses. Social media posts that prove she knew about Vance's gambling debts months ago. She planned this from the beginning. It looks that way. She needed a financially stable father for her child, and she chose Reed. Are you asking for my permission to cut her off? I'm asking for your advice. You've been supporting our family for years without taking credit. Cambria was surprised by this acknowledgement. You knew. I'm not blind. The anonymous payments that covered Jade's rent. The credit card bills that mysteriously got paid. Your father and I discussed it, but never said anything. Why not? Because you were helping family. We thought that was admirable. And now I realize we enabled Jade's irresponsibility. She never learned consequences because someone always rescued her. What are you going to do? Stop the financial support. Let her face reality. That's probably wise. Will you reconsider the lawsuit? If she's going to struggle as a single mother. The lawsuit isn't about money. It's about consequences. I understand. Do you? Really? Loretta was quiet for a moment. I raised 2 daughters very differently. You learned responsibility and integrity. Jade learned that charm and manipulation could solve problems. And I failed her by not teaching her better. But that doesn't excuse what she did to you and Reed. Thursday brought the legal filing. Simone submitted the defamation lawsuit against Jade, seeking $15,000 in actual damages plus punitive awards. The local legal community was small enough that word spread quickly by afternoon. Jade's lawyer called seeking a settlement conference. My client would like to resolve this without trial, he said. What's her offer? Simone asked. Public apology, an agreement to refrain from making future false statements. She already made a public apology, and refraining from lies isn't a concession, it's basic human decency. What would satisfy your client? Full restitution for damages incurred, plus acknowledgement that the false accusations were deliberate rather than mistaken. Ms. Whitlow maintains the accusations were based on confusion rather than malice. Then we'll let a jury decide. The call ended without agreement. Jade was still trying to minimize her culpability. Friday afternoon, 3 weeks after the DNA results, Cambria stood in her bakery reviewing the week's orders. Business was actually up. The local publicity had brought new customers curious about the woman who'd refused to be manipulated by family. Reed entered through the back door, home early from work. "Good day," Cambria asked. "Better than good. My supervisor said the company appreciated how I handled the situation, staying professional while false accusations were flying around." "Any word on Vance?" Cruz called. They found him working at that casino in Reno. Garnishment starts next week. "And Jade?" Radio silence. Cambria nodded. Jade had made her public statement and then disappeared from social media. According to Dean, she was staying with a cousin in Eugene, away from Portland's gossip network. "Do you miss her?" Reed asked. "I miss the sister I thought I had, but that person probably never existed." "What do you mean?" "The Jade I cared about was someone who made mistakes but learned from them. Someone who struggled but maintained integrity. This Jade, the one who tried to destroy our marriage for convenience, she's a stranger." Reed sat down at the small table where Cambria did paperwork. "Your parents have been asking about reconciliation. What do you tell them?" "That reconciliation requires acknowledgement and change, neither of which has happened." "Good answer. They think you're being stubborn." "I'm being consistent. I don't enable liars, even when they're family." That evening, as Cambria cleaned her bakery equipment, she reflected on the past month. The accusations, the investigation, the legal process, the family confrontations, all of it had confirmed something she'd always believed. Truth was more important than peace. Some people prioritized harmony over honesty, choosing comfortable lies over difficult facts. But lies were parasites that consumed trust and integrity. They had to be eliminated completely or they would spread. Jade would have her baby and face the consequences of her choices. Vance would pay child support whether he wanted to or not. The family would adjust to new boundaries based on character rather than blood relations, and Cambria would continue building her life on principles that couldn't be compromised by manipulation, guilt, or false loyalty. The phone rang as she locked up the bakery. Marla's name appeared on the screen. "How are you feeling?" Marla asked. "Satisfied. Any regrets?" "None. Even about losing your relationship with Jade." "I didn't lose it. I discovered it never existed." "That's cold." "That's realistic." "And your parents?" "They're learning that actions have consequences, even for family. No chance you'll soften your position over time." Cambria looked at her reflection in the bakery window. The woman staring back had weathered a deliberate attack on everything she'd built. She'd emerged stronger, clearer, and more determined. "No chance," she said. "Some lines can't be uncrossed." 6 months later, spring rain drummed against the windows of Cambria's expanded bakery. The additional space allowed for more seating and a small coffee bar that had proved popular with morning commuters. Reed stopped by during lunch, as had become his habit since the paternity crisis ended. "Any news from your parents?" he asked, settling into a corner booth with a sandwich. "Dad called yesterday. Jade's cousin in Eugene is tired of supporting her." "Where will she go?" "Somewhere else. That's how she's always handled problems." "And the baby?" "Due next month." Cambria's voice was neutral. "Dad thinks she might move back to Portland after the birth." "How do you feel about that?" "Indifferent. Portland's a big city." Reed studied his wife's face. "No curiosity about your niece or nephew?" "Children aren't responsible for their parents' choices. If Jade raises that child with integrity, maybe we'll meet someday. If not..." She shrugged. The defamation lawsuit had settled 2 months earlier. Jade couldn't pay the judgment, but it remained on her credit report as a permanent reminder of consequences. Vance had been located again in Arizona, working construction under his real name. Child support garnishment was finally functioning. Loretta and Dean had maintained contact with Cambria, but family dinners were a thing of the past. The relationship was cordial but distant, like diplomatic ties between former allies. "Mrs. Chin stopped by this morning," Reed said. "She wanted you to know that Jade's apartment has new tenants." "Good for them." She also said the police were asking questions about Vance's former activities. Apparently some of his gambling associates weren't happy about his disappearance. Cambria felt cold satisfaction. Vance's problems extended beyond child support. Running from responsibility created cascading consequences. Any word on whether he'll actually pay support once the baby arrives? Cruz says they're optimistic. Interstate enforcement has improved, and Vance is working legally now. For now. That afternoon, a young woman entered the bakery looking nervous and uncertain. She approached the counter hesitantly. "Are you Cambria Holt?" "Yes." "I'm Jessica Torres. Vance Keller is my ex-boyfriend." Cambria's attention sharpened. "What can I do for you?" "I heard about the paternity case. I wanted you to know that Vance has done this before." "Done what?" "Gotten women pregnant and then disappeared. I have a 3-year-old daughter he's never supported." "Have you been through child support enforcement?" "For 2 years. He keeps changing jobs and moving. But maybe now that there are 2 cases against him," Cambria understood. "Multiple child support obligations would make it harder for Vance to hide." "I can give you the contact information for our enforcement officer," she offered. "Thank you. And I wanted to say I'm sorry your family went through this. Vance is very convincing when he wants to be." After Jessica left, Cambria reflected on patterns of behavior. Vance wasn't just avoiding responsibility, he was systematically exploiting women who trusted him. Jade had been one victim among many. That didn't excuse Jade's decision to make false accusations, but it provided context for her desperation. The door chimed again, and Dean entered alone. "Coffee," Cambria offered. "Please." They sat at the same booth Reed had occupied earlier. Dean looked older than he had 6 months ago, with deeper lines around his eyes. "How are you doing, Dad?" "Tired. Your mother and I have been talking about the future." "What about it?" "Whether we'll have relationships with grandchildren we've never met." Cambria poured cream into her coffee. "That depends on choices other people make." "Jade's choices. And yours." Dean nodded slowly. "We've decided to establish a college fund for the baby. Something Jade can't access, but the child can use when they're older." "That's thoughtful. We hoped you might contribute." Cambria considered it. Supporting a child's education was different from enabling an irresponsible parent. "I'll think about it." "The offer to reconcile with Jade is still open." "The offer was never open. Reconciliation requires acknowledgement and change." She did acknowledge her mistakes. She acknowledged getting caught. That's different. Dean finished his coffee and stood to leave. "I hope someday you'll find it in your heart to forgive. Forgiveness is earned, not given." "She's still your sister." "No, she's a stranger who shares my DNA." After Dean left, Cambria worked on a complicated wedding cake order that required absolute precision. The methodical work helped her think clearly about family, loyalty, and boundaries. Some people believed blood relationships transcended behavior. That family bond should survive any betrayal because genetics created unbreakable connections. But Cambria had learned that character mattered more than chromosomes. The people who deserved her loyalty were those who demonstrated integrity, honesty, and respect. Biology was just biology. The rain continued falling as evening approached. Cambria finished the cake layers and began cleanup routines that had become automatic over years of practice. Reed arrived to walk her home, another habit that had developed since the crisis. "Good day," he asked. "Productive." She told him about Jessica Torres and Dean's visit. Multiple child support cases might actually force Vance to take responsibility or drive him further underground. Either way, it's not your problem anymore. It never was my problem. It was Jade's problem that she tried to make ours. They walked home through the quiet neighborhood, past houses where families were having dinner and children were doing homework. Normal lives built on trust and honesty. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd handled this differently? Reed asked. No, not even curious. There was only one right way to handle it. Everything else would have been enabling lies. Even if it meant saving your relationship with Jade. Especially then. Relationships built on lies aren't worth saving. At home, Cambria checked her business email and found an order for a corporate event next month. The bakery's reputation had actually benefited from the publicity around her principled stance. Customers appreciated working with someone who couldn't be manipulated or intimidated. Before bed, she reviewed the financial records she kept meticulously organized. The business was thriving. Her marriage was stronger. Her principles remained intact. Some people might call her cold or unforgiving. But integrity wasn't about being warm and forgiving. It was about being consistent and honest, even when those qualities created conflict. Jade had gambled that family loyalty would trump truth. She'd lost that bet decisively. As Cambria turned off the lights and locked the doors, she felt the satisfaction that came from living according to unchanging principles. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she would meet them with the same clarity that had guided her through the past 6 months. Some people forgave and forgot. Others remembered and learned. Cambria was definitely in the second category.